This is Chipicon, and welcome to Otherworldly, the Changing Times, Changing Worlds Wednesday show. And tonight we got Archonstone, otherwise known as Bill Hegeman, who actually is he's a practicing and practical magician. Do try his if you can get a hold of his book, the Magic Mind, Emotion and Body, Praxis, Magick, no woo, and how and why. It's like, yeah, it's what I kind of think when what Isaac Bonwit started with practical magic. God, was it 40 years ago? He's got Bill continued. It's a good book, but yeah, a lot of us know that magic is real, but and use it, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And wouldn't we like to know how to make it work all the time? So other than gushing on Bill's book, hi. Shall I call you Bill or Arkenstone?
As you wish.
Back and forth,
I'm
alternating, I
I'm
suppose.
just Bill. Archonstone's my spiritual name or a handle that you can find me anywhere.
Yeah,
Uh,
and we can find him on the what's it called? You got a Facebook page that's got the art for Arkenstone, which is kind of cool. Which I'll also put in there.
that's
But
that's a link that you can find just about everything about me on.
yes, if you want him to come and do your wedding, you're in range. Uh,
There you go.
but there you go. So, well, I want people to know how to find us because we're all over the country.
Yeah, and
And so,
thank you for such a gushing page and updating my live journal. Thank you.
sorry.
Um, that's quite all right.
But anyway, yeah, it's a I'm excited about I've made enough mistakes with magic that I'm very eager to learn how to not screw up.
Well, screwing it up is part of Miss Frizzle's thing, getting messy and learning about it. Magic is just like that. You and when you have so many other influences besides the collective magical wherewithal that you have, and the environment and the magical environment that you've called to yourself, there's only so much effect that it has. Why aren't we all lottery winners? It's because there's a million other people wishing for the same thing. I may overcome 10 people's wills, 100 people's wills, but a million, not so much. And I think that's what we don't understand is all of our collective wills weaves a fabric into our reality. And the magic that we use actually affects the the fabric of reality that we have an affinity for. And as magicians, we find what works. Uh, Chipicon, you use runes. Some other people will use hermetic lore, doing witches circles or any number of things. And what we don't realize is that magic isn't the complete answer because the stuff always doesn't necessarily happen. And if you're a part of any working group, they tell you do the work. And a lot of people don't believe that magic is about work, because you have to build up your magical muscles and your relationship to the universe to get to that point. And I'm going to share a Venn diagram that I brought up, and everybody seeing that quite okay? Yeah, so this is us. This little star, that's us. And this yellow circle, this is our sphere of influence. This green circle is the world that we know. And usually most magic that we can do for people or for ourselves is actually making use of, come here, give me your little star. Come here. I just want you to star. You know, little star, here we go. We can move all around in our influence. That's the easiest magic that we can do. And for other people's influence, if they have a similar circle out here, we can help them move within their influence. You're not going to get beyond that. Now, this world, this green circle, the world that we know, how do we get, say, this is our target environment? We have to adapt to it. We have to learn it. We have to become to it. But we can't just go there, because then where are we? We have to nudge our reality one bit at a time, and then our influence. And our influence may be growing, but to get over where this is at, we have to really work it pretty hard to get to that point where it overlaps, where we can get our influence, our magical objective there. But it's not 100%. You want to be able to get your influence completely over it. But the thing is, this is where you are, and the world keeps on getting bigger, and you get a bigger world. And sometimes we make exchanges for what we're not anymore. Okay. We end up growing. We let things go. So this is kind of an idea of what we can do. I mean, this green circle, everybody has influence over. And the thing is, how many people know the witch's pyramid? To know, to dare, to will, and the last one's to be silent. Let's say your objective is over here. You got everybody's will controlling it. Everybody's will. You have to be able to find some way to insert your will into that circle. But people don't know that that's your objective right there. If you tell them about it, their influence starts making this whole thing more and come here. It's more and more difficult to achieve, because people's influence, like you got 1 million people wanting to win the lottery, they are making that target harder and harder because their will is shaping the fabric of reality. That makes sense? The thing is, we may have some effect in it, but when you have 100 people saying, no, you can't do that, you're crazy because you told them what you wish for, what you want, they're already putting the will against you in the universe. So that's why you keep quiet, so that you don't tell them. You find the parts of reality that they are not paying attention to, and you insert your influence in it, and then you put yourself, come here, then you do the magic to get you into that spot. You're navigating reality. And that's the thing. Well, let's say you want something completely outside of your ken, outside of your knowledge. Okay? Let's say you have a good relationship with working deities and everything like else. They put you there. Where's your sphere of influence? What part of the world do you know? What happens? You got a whole new world of influence around it that you have no clue about. the world is cruel and it'll bounce you right back to where you were before. Just this is an unattainable goal. Unless you move it in your sphere of influence, you keep moving it. And it's a lot of little magics to get yourself into that arena to get you there. Now, if you have a God that will change you at the same time, great. That'll change the influences around for you. But do they do that? I don't know. I have not had that type of luck. Some gods will help you get there, but usually it's just these small little nudges that we actually have control of, where we're magically have an affinity for. Um, the four elements, the runes, how we know and feel how it works within that, the particular deities. Let's say the deity that you have an influence with has this much influence. There's other deities all over the place having influence all over the place. Where are you at? So it's the idea is that we in our spiritual and even magical growth, we have to nudge ourselves. We have to find bits of reality where people aren't paying attention to it and nudge it. It's kind of finding the leverage that people aren't paying attention to, and then we can insert ourselves and actually uh, um, surprise, here we are, and there's a bit of magic. Wow, that works, and that's great. So now comes the other $64 million question. What happens? You do have gods, and you do have a lot of other influence. And for me, I don't particularly use gods. I don't ask for their help because I end up having to offer more and do more than what I expect to pay for. And that's, I don't get, for a lot of you, you may have good working relationships. That's great. Uh, here's a story, and the whole idea of the law of three. I don't abide by it, but every bit of magical environment that you invoke, that you attach to, is also another level. It's like, you get, for example, you got the earth, the god, and goddess. Okay, that's three right there. Okay.
Mhm.
Now, if you start using Kabbalistic magic, there's 10 spheres, so it's tenfold. You get a feedback on it, and all those have other influences that kind of have their own personal sets of agendas. I was at what's now ChessieCon, which was Darkovercon. I think ChipperCon, you're familiar with it. It's a convention where a lot of women authors write science fiction. They had a magical track. You had
I love that.
the Sisters of Michelene there. You have you have people from different ecumenicon groups back in the day. So I'm there, I'm having a good time, and I see this woman, and she has this name badge. Says wench, and I'm going like, "Hello, wench," and she looks at me, and it's like, says, woman entitled to nights of complete happiness. I
Ah,
said, I don't know what you're talking about. My name's Sabrina, and you know nothing about it. That was just like, oh, poke in the eyes and what have you. Well, I'm being a charitable soul because I don't want to say anything mean or whatever, bad day, whatever. So I wished for her that may she know nights of complete happiness.
Hmm.
There was already 3 invocations there. The Michelines, Marion Zimmer Bradley's group, uh, the lady who does the Tarini series. All of these women have filled out the environment with all of these supernatural presences and it's surrounding this. Okay. I didn't mean it to be a serious hard bit of magic. I just wished her well with that. 20 years later, I go to the convention. I'm talking with people. I was asked to help out with the magical room where people can actually ground out, process stuff, what have you. And I was out in the lobby chatting with somebody. And this woman comes over to me and found what I were talking about fascinating or whatever, and she followed me back to Georgia. She ended up living with me. She's a late girlfriend. She had a lot of challenges and a lot of physical challenges, and guess what? That was her. And so I ended up fulfilling that very bit of magic that I wasn't aware of because it was set under the roof of other gods and other influences. So it took 20 years and it came to happen. And there's also some other weird effects because I'm a plane walker and stuff. And when you get a being like a high gentry that shows up at your doorstep and says, there's a bit of magic that has a lot of background and it's just kind of gumming up the works between here and there and over time. I actually had to let that spell go and so that it can free up thoroughfare for certain fae.
Wow.
That's what I realized. Oh, yeah, I did this to myself. I loved the woman. She had my back, and that was wonderful. You know, but that wasn't meant to be a love spell. So, but unintended consequences indeed. So we have to be not only aware of what we're doing, what we say, and the environment, and how many magical egregores are surrounding you at the moment when you foolishly open your mouth.
Well, it's better than some. I had I heard a story from a woman who ran a magic shop, and a woman came in and wanted a magic spell to make somebody love her, and she tried to explain why that was a bad idea. And so she basically sent her away. I'm not doing that. And she came back in a couple weeks later and said, how do you take off a love spell? But she found somebody who would tell her how to do it. She said, I just wanted him to not to be able to live without me. And she says, oh, did you phrase it that way? Yeah, he's in the ICU, isn't he? Yes, and they don't know if he's going to live. Like, and so she did her best to help break the spell, but it's of all of the spells that can go very, very wrong. I've found love spells frequently are the ones that usually do that.
I think lust spells are probably a lot easier and a lot more ethical because if you find people who are equally longing for a mutual satisfaction, that occurs without any of the long acting detrimental collateral damage.
Yeah, I've done one love spell in my life. A high school, say that, friend of mine asked me if he could help him fall in love with this girl who was in love with him. And they were already good friends, but she loved him and he didn't love her. He said, well, could you put a spell on me so that I will love her? And that sounded, like it's like put a spell, I do a spell for me to make me love her. And okay, that sounds really like it's his choice. Fine, here, I will do the work for you. And he came back 3 weeks later and said, I love her, but it's just not working. Can you take it off? Well, that was the last time I ever did a love spell. And 2 or 3 years later, when we were in college, I bumped into him and he'd come out as gay. And so that was that kind of like, no, this is not lined up for this lifetime for you. But yeah, no, I thought that I had been very, very careful to no, it's all consensual, and sure, I'll help you get what you want. But no, love spells are just leave that alone. That's just not something that I think is a good place to go with magic. I mean, what is magic? Is it tweaking reality? So
Yeah, and the whole thing is getting to that other part of your goal. If you're trying to evolve yourself and change, or improve your life situation, it comes in little blips and nudges. And you also have to embrace the reality around it, because if you place yourself in the reality that you have no affinity with, it backfires really quick. It's also getting yourself so entangled into the environment, so that you're so knowledgeable about it. You can also tie yourself into the very spot that you've been trying to move from. I did that when I was living in Albany, New York. I was a pretty good professional reader at the time. And I thought, well, it'd be a good idea to get more thorough knowledge. I learned how to create fetches that were servitors that would go and give me all the lowdown everywhere. All I had to do was figure out what I needed. But every one of them actually developed a karma. Every one of them got entangled with the reality, the little realities that they're all in. I had great insight into them, but it wove me into the fabric so tight I couldn't do anything with my life. Zero, zip, nothing. And that was a very painful lesson. Number one, it's like if you have a servitors to do things, the things should be a finite objective and give it a time and have it end. Well, I learned a lot, an immense amount of information. I learned a lot about people, could read people very quickly and adeptly. But if I'm there servicing everybody else, I couldn't service me.
how did you get out of it then?
I ate all of them. And I created a astral dungeon with a dragon that was like a turtle, and I just fed all of these aspects that I built, they're mine, and fed them to it. And and the few personalities that I needed to implement and change things for my life, I incorporated like 2 or 3 of them. But I mean, I literally fed hundreds of them. And I watched my dreamscapes absolutely dismantle. They were just falling apart. It was like it was my dreamscapes were MC Escher to begin with, and I'm going one place to another, and I knew how to navigate everything, and it was great. And then I had to dismantle it. But by the end of that, I finally was well, geez, in erstwhile, I had two wives. They all blew up, and then but by the end, the last wife that I was having children, and I got jobs down here in Georgia. I got completely free of the Mohawk curse. You guys know what the Mohawk curse is? Oh,
No.
oh, that's a bit of lore of the Mohawk Valley, Mohawk and Hudson Valley area. Those who are born in the Mohawk and Hudson Valley, they are doomed to return to it over and over and over again. It's as if you can't escape it. You steal our land, okay, now you got to stay here. So, so basically, I got free and I moved to Georgia, and I had three more children, and I doubled my salary, and over my career, I doubled it again. But I now I'm dealing with normal human relationship disasters. So, working all the time, and my last wife decided to find herself another husband. That's okay. I accept that beyond the regular insanity that I had before that. So, there is, I did move it, but I had to let go of reality that I was in as well. And that is just as important as extending your sphere of influence and growing your sphere of influence in the direction where you want to magically place yourself or manifest things from that reality into your life. You have to have it there. So I moved, and physically, spiritually, emotionally, personality wise, I changed, and here I am. And I relearned Magick, and doing it a totally different way that I find that it's effective. I feel that I'm rather sane, you know, depending how you want to qualify it. So yeah, that's now I'm learning how to embrace more of the world. Not I'm creating fetches that are simulacrums of me, not personalities of places and things. So, and with very distinct rules of detachment, and uh, pushing my influence elsewhere. So this is like one way where I can do an energy workshop where I can surround individuals with their own personal energy that's have an affinity to them. You have to do it from multiple points of view. So it's part of the practice. I things that I learned are I can do this, but I have to do it the right way. You get yourself tied into a reality, that's it. I mean, it's like a lot of shamans and medicine people. They are excellent within their tribes because they have their context, their magical context, and they do some wonderful, powerful work. Outside of it, you have all the Western world kind of say, nope, that can't be real, and next thing you know, it doesn't happen.
Yeah, nothing like oh, you raised your hand? Or
No,
you
I
push a
didn't.
random. I was just thinking about yeah, how you essentially put a block on when you decide that magic doesn't work. And there are people out there who seem to be magical static generators that it won't work around them.
Oh, exactly. Rabid atheists. Absolutely. Their magic is hold reality as it is. No movement of this reality. My reality is exactly as I see it. Goes no, you try to. The thing is, you'll also find that they will have very static and specific emotion sets. That it's like their frequency generators and the capacitors are set and tuned to hold reality exactly where it is. And it's very hard to do magic around them,
I,
especially the more
I,
brilliant and aware they are of everything around them.
people can use their reaction buttons to say, change the subject, but because I'm going to bring politics into it. I am thinking about, the third of the country that seems to think that the GOP's lack of, we just want to follow our charismatic leader. They seem to be holding on to a reality that they don't quite, they're trying to hold on to the Ozzie and Harriet myth that if we don't change anything, it's all going to stay and we'll be comfortable. We'll be the children that our parents kept us safe. And that's my best interpretation of why would anybody do something that seems so self-contradictory.
It's because they're
But
addicted to their feelings and their behaviors of those feelings. And
yeah,
and like most conservative white culture, to be able to be uncomfortable is unconscionable. They can be miserable, but absolutely comfortable with it because they are addicted to emotional patterns where they know how to remember everything and function. It's an addiction. And to be able to think beyond that or feel that or embrace new views, you have to become emotionally uncomfortable, accept that, and allow yourself to absorb new ideas and new ways of thinking. Well, they can't because it makes them so uncomfortable. And they have reactions to that discomfort that are programmed to be literally narcissistic. They will actually use narcissistic abuse patterns against people to shut other people down. It's because they've been programmed over and over again. The problem is that when you look at sociopaths in this type of arena, even individuals in even small disenfranchised groups, pagan groups, lifestyle groups, you name it, there's always several of them that will look to take advantage of people that are in a disenfranchised group because they've already been abused and they've learned the patterns of being a victim. Very easy. And they will push the buttons of those people, feed from them. And their reactions are pretty predictable. And that's just like a used car salesman. And the problem is that type of thinking shrinks their amygdala. That some of them are also predisposed to have smaller amygdalas as well. This is where having empathy, larger amygdalas, you have empathy and you can embrace other emotional paradigms to actually activate your brain to actually absorb new ways of thinking and behavior. There's a shrunk either by trauma or by predisposition. And they're given easy, standard answers that make them comfortable. Now, how does this deal with magic? This is
thank you for bringing it back to that.
yeah. You asked, and it's extremely difficult because practically in this mundane world, you're not going to get them off the dime. There's only two things that will move people off that: fear of pain and death. That is about as uncomfortable as a thing that I'm going to say to my pagan friends here. They don't respond to anything else. Now, what can be done is doing a lot of group effort and building an egregore that actually involves both overworld and underworld. And you have to find pieces of that aren't contaminated and work the magic there. Because you find little nuances to nudge them one way or the other over and over and over again. And
Yes,
it's
you were talking about back when you were talking about the field of influence, the nudging. Can you give us some practical examples of little work that leads to the big movement of getting you where you want to go?
well, for example, getting a new job or a new career. It's I need to know this I need this information. To get that information, I need more money. The discipline of saving money. Okay. You do the internal work, and also you do the things where it's like, okay, I get this training, or I look to people who are a pattern of information or energy or behavior. How do I emulate that? And you do the magic to change yourself so that you move yourself in the direction where you can fit within that environment. Learn what to say, how to say it, when to say it. Because unfortunately, people respond to these social cues. Our changes, the work that we need to do ourselves, is part of that. When you have that, and that starts aligning, then you can put out the outward spells about finding opportunities, finding the right people to talk to, stumbling into the right job board, for example, and different people with personalities. You put yourself out there to talk with them to learn how to gauge a response and be able to how you interrelate with them. And then next thing you know, the interviewer is going to have a similar personality that you've learned how to chat up. How do you learn to impress? So it's a two-way street. What we do internally, but it's also finding having the universe bring these subtle things so that you can actually make use of it. That's just an example. Um,
Well, the first thing you need to do is know what to do for next. The
well,
first part
yeah,
of the witch's pyramid to know.
yeah, and and sometimes you're sitting there just collecting information, and then it's the first thing is to know. What do I need to know? You know, kind of like invoke Odin or Hermes or Thoth for the wisdom to actually get the pieces of information to get that aha moment where you can get the uh, different pieces aligning and say, "Oh, geez, now I get it, and now I understand the inner workings of my sphere of influence better. I can do magic. Um, I can push these buttons now because I know where the buttons are, or where to stick the stick for leverage.
Hmm.
It's persistence. It's discipline, not only in your personal life, but um, also building your magical repertoire of like constantly building up an awareness. I call it creating the eternal questions, about getting all the questions running in my mind to look for these opportunities, to um, to put out in the universe, direct my subconscious to make me walk down a street to meet so and so, to find a book so and so, or to get a new experience so that I can experience the people that or in the environment that reflects of what I want to do. And I don't have to be overly specific about it. What I need is my subconscious to have a free for all, do a Miss Frizzle, to go on an adventure, to be the gray wanderer, to to do what it's necessary to get all that wisdom, and then, or at least knowledge, and then you ruminate about it, and you let your subconscious do it. You let your dreams work for it. You follow those leads, and yes, get messy, make mistakes, but you can all learn from them. And then you find out. Good, bad, and indifferent. And some of the magic is like you keep nudging. It's like imagine you're a car and your wheels are in a rut, okay? And the rut goes on for miles. But you need to make a right there. The thing is, you can't make a hard right because you're going to bust an axle. Okay? But you go back and forth, and you constantly look for the one stone in the road that actually gets your wheel up over a lip. And you prepare for that. That's a magical moment. That's being pensive. And then you seize the day. And it's like a piece of magic where you implement as it happens. And off the out of the rut you go. Sometimes you go into the ditch. Sometimes you go down the wrong road. Sometimes it's the road is good, but the outcome's not as it's good, bad, and indifferent. But you're out of that rut. You know how to get out of a rut. You start building a repertoire of like new skills, and that's growing your influence. And you're making your influence ring bigger and bigger, and your skill set stronger and stronger.
Like you said, build your magical muscles.
Yeah.
You could have a little tiny yellow sphere around you, and then get it bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
But
Exactly.
But I was thinking about, can we work with other people's spheres of influence to help? But I suppose you have to get to know theirs.
Exactly. You speaking of politics, you got to expand your sphere of knowledge within that environment, the people, the economy, other people that react to it, and at that point, you are creating a monstrous egregore that has it. You can't run it all by yourself. You got to give it some automation. You got to give it certain bits of intelligence. Um, I got a bit of influence that I got sitting right on top of the Washington Monument. I try to stick out the influence out there to have these people make fools of themselves and what have you, because I don't relish seeing this country go into a civil war. And that may happen anyway, but I hope at the same time I'm trying to build an influence around me, build a tribe, build a society where get that word, the seeds of thought into people's heads that we can do better, we can build better. Now, they're seeds. I can't convince people, I can't convince a horse to drink water. I can't, if the mule does not want to move, it's going to bite me instead of me trying to budge it. Okay. So sometimes it's just like you got to put the carrot down at the end of the road and go and move along and put carrots for other people. Eventually, people move like lemmings, slowly, inexorably, most of the time unconscious. Um, try to build that influence in all my dream states, all the subconscious plane activities. Just try to put my influence there. That's not right. We can do it this way. Because if you can be conscious in your dream states and there's other people in there, you got a hell of a lot more influence than they have because they don't have control over. Plant the seeds. This is wrong behavior. This is better behavior. But that.
Oh, I just remembered my role as the host. We should probably define egregore. in case somebody who's listening doesn't know what it means.
Absolutely. An egregore is a magical construct that does some job. It can have as much, a talisman can be an egregore. The whole Christian faith is an egregore. The relationship that you have between a god and your altar, that magical practice is an egregore. It's a think of it as a magical machine, and you can probably inscribe it with intelligence, choices, behaviors, and it's a matter of repetition to build it up. It's one reason why traditions, they have their specific traditions, their wording, their order of ritual around the circle, why their initiations are consistent. It's to build people into the egregore so that you can have a much stronger reference and a way of working with the universe. It could be a very specific job. You can build an egregore that's just a portal to somewhere else where you can actually have a way of relating to it. Yes, you're right. Collective intelligence, a group mind. You can build it by one person or dozen or a whole coven. The whole idea of patriotism in this country is its own egregore. Every agency, every corporation has a zeitgeist, a mindset, it has an egregore, less conscious than the ones that we build magically, but you can still interact with them. Every forest has an egregore. You can go out and people, places, and things.
I just thought we should get that, but I was okay. Since we were getting, we're 3/4 of the way through. Did anybody who's come to listen have a question? Quick before we run out of time.
I love the idea of the sunflower seeds.
Oh yeah, that was great.
Yeah, we're going to be planting some flowers and stuff along the side of our road.
I think I'm going to find some seeds and do that myself when I go places. But I find that what you're talking about is clarifying a lot of things about how I work magic for me. I didn't know the terms, but obviously I've been doing some of it. So the concept of the egregore is really hitting home.
Yeah, it's not a common word, but it's
Yeah.
in ceremonial magic circles, they use that word a lot more because they realize that the long-term structure of a practice builds a magical structure. Buddhists, tantric Buddhists, their initiations is to initiate you into a relationship with a particular Buddha or thought god and set of practices. And some of them have, like, you get conferred these cities by, if you mesh yourself into that framework, you get brought along. Now, that's the other thing. If you are initiated, your sphere of influence is changed by that group. And that can expand your sphere of influence, that yellow thing. It can migrate. And because if that group has similar patterns across the United States, guess what? Their influence keeps on expanding. You go to another city with let's say another group that has the same tradition as you, and they have a sphere of influence there. Guess what? You have a leg up working there.
Now, as a solo practitioner, or I work with Griffin, are we kind of creating our own little mini version of that, or?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's You can have it built around a temple. You can have it built around yourself.
Hmm.
And build it around a specific thought form that has certain type of agency and ability to interact with things.
Okay.
That's all. That's different levels of your personal magic,
Okay.
and that also helps you build your influence circle.
Yeah, I
Your
was thinking
client.
that what an example of that might be the Star Trek universe.
Mm.
There are 7 billion Trekkies out there. Probably a loose definition, but if you got 7 billion people sharing a thought, the Star Trek universe exists in some reality. Whether we can ever get there or not is a completely different question, but it
Not only
exists.
that, but every Star Trek timeline exists in some way.
I knew
I'm
a
just
group in the
thinking
Marines.
7 billion
used
people is a lot.
700 million people is a lot.
Yeah.
7 billion is the whole planet.
Yeah, true.
Well, half the
Yeah.
people are
We
Star
only
Wars.
got 8 billion change right now total. So
But still.
But to speak to your Star Trek metaphor, I knew people in the Marines that used the Intrepid, the one that with all the Vulcans that got ate up by that creature in that one episode, and they used that as the platform for their magic.
Nice.
And I know other people who will use specific editions of Dungeons and Dragons. Now, it may not have a complete relationship with reality, but people's relationship to it.
Hmm.
it
There are people
being
who practice
consistent
the
enough.
Jedi religion.
Hmm?
There are people who practice the Jedi religion. It is an official registered religion.
Yeah.
and it's interesting because you create a cohesive and internally consistent thing there that's whether you want to call it your own reality or what. But yeah, it sounds like it's a community version of what you do when you put your energy into magical tools or into a ritual you do every day.
Hmm.
The ritual you do every day builds an egregor. You know, putting energy in a tool to work it in a specific way is just, it becomes a tool. An egregor is a tool. It's
Okay.
I'm sure people can get thinking about the words talismans or amulets or consecrated tools. Um, it's all a matter of how you apply it.
I was going the reason I laughed was thinking about a rather unconsecrated tool I used once. I built on the fly. We were trying to lift a kick wheel, pottery wheel. I don't know if you know, it's got a wheel that turns on the
Yep.
top where you got their pottery on, but you're kicking this farging huge round wheel at the bottom. And basically you got this 300-pound thing, and we had to lift it up into the back of the van, which was a good 3 or more feet up. And it was like, how we just dragged it across the lawn. How the heck are we going to get it up in the car? And I said, well, okay, I'm going to have to use magic. So I tied I imagined a pulley, and the pulley part that we're way up, because the farther away the pulley is, the better the advantage. And so I tabbed that, and I said, okay, count to 3, you guys lift and I will pull on the pulley. And they just picked it up and it went right in, and they said, we just dragged that. It's like, it was heavy. Why were we able to do that? I said, because I used magic. And he's like, but
And
that
you also set an expectation. You
Oh,
used
yeah.
a bit of glamour magic with it. You set people's expectation and give them a fiction that they could all believe and work with. You created an egregor on the spot.
Yeah, but it was just a very temporary one. It was not consecrated. It was the tool we needed. And
You don't
but
have to consecrate a thing.
but that works. And on the other hand, we were going to talk about why things don't work, and why and when it doesn't work. I was thinking about the time I was trying to, my husband was going through radiation in prep to have his bone marrow transplant. And I got a cold. I tend not to get colds. So I used all the healing. I used the rune healing. I used the vitamin C. I used the flower remedies. I used every frickin' Reiki, everything. But you know, if you've got the sniffles, you're not going near anybody who's got no immune system.
Yeah.
And as soon as that was done, I felt fine. And I was like, and then I realized the universe always takes or tends to take the path of least resistance. I had gone into this saying, please, please don't let any of my negative feelings about this, because he embraced the medical model. And I was like, no, we need to do energy on you. And so I said, don't let my negative feelings have any impact on him. So the universe says, okay, you won't get near him for the next week until it's all over. It's like, God. And when I realized that, I had to laugh at myself.
Yeah,
Yep.
I've seen
I
people,
had done it to myself.
I've seen people who can heal themselves from cancer, and they will take remote energy healing from any number of people. But when I view somebody that has, like, it's a bright golden spot in the place where the disease is,
Mhm.
they're holding on to it. There's no amount of magic that you're going to do to fix that.
Right.
It is almost like Doctor Who saying it's a fixed point in time. That
Yeah.
person
So they needed it. They need that for some reason.
Yeah, I don't know why people are just so fond of their miseries, but they are. And I've said before about one of the most traumatic things that ever happened to me as a Reiki healer was encountering a client who did not want, in fact, want to be healed. And we all got the energy thrown back in our faces. Now, you know, my teacher had been through this before, so she wasn't quite as stunned as I was. But yeah.
Yeah, it's people can be addicted to the way they are, and they can be addicted to their particular somatic traumas. The way people can be addicted to how they've overcome some trauma, and there's usually some psychosomatic anchor in the body. And if they have overcome the issue, they don't want to revisit it again. Because if they go and heal that part, they have to revisit the issue. That will upset the whole apple cart about who they are, what they believe, how they want to function. Then,
so are there other reasons that are going to block your work? Because, you know, things that we need to be aware of so we can make.
besides making a mistake and telling somebody about it.
Oh, so you think the be silent is really important?
Yeah, it is. I mean, now, be fair, I've seen people put pictures of their spell jars and candle magic and looking for outcomes from the way the wax puddles and stuff like that. They have a group of people who are supportive. Okay. Now, having a group of people support your magic, that's one thing. Having people not knowing anything about your magic, that will muddy the waters. And so the target effect, you know, people may all want you to achieve that goal, but their perception of the target, not the same as yours. So,
like when Marion blew in Robin's ear and made miss his mark.
I'm not familiar with that.
Oh no, that's just a Robin Hood thing where he never hit misses, but she got a little close, and he's like, okay, missed the whole target. Okay, that was just Yeah, if you don't invite them in to mess with your target,
Yeah,
I guess is what you're saying.
exactly. That's
Well, I guess that's going to be it, because we have now used a wonderful hour. But I think that, and I'm going to remind people that that you have there's this, and if you go back to the Facebook page, it's we've got links to other wonderful ones. You go over to the Changing Times, Changing Worlds page, and you can see lots of. You can get another dose of Bill talking about
not
everything
that.
from. What was that last year? We got you were talking about tribalism and how that can be good, even though it's got a bad name right now, and energy imbalance and lucid dreaming and psychic hygiene, which I think is psychic hygiene's like wash your hands. We start with almost everything. So thank you, Bills, thank you, Archonstone. I hope I'll lure you back in the next few months.
Thank you for having me.
And we're closing in.